Welcome back. Today we talk about immunity. What is immunity? It is the ability of the host to protect itself against foreign organisms. So, antigens can be defined as substances that bind to specific immune receptors and elicit an immune response. What is the immune system? It is the system that comprises the tissues, cells and molecules which mount the immune response. So, what are the components of the immune system? Lymphatic organs. Thymus, spleen, tonsils, lymph nodes. Diffuse lymphatic tissue. Collections of lymphocytes and other immune cells dispersed in the lining of the digestive and respiratory tracts and in the skin. Specific cells. Lymphocytes, macrophages, etc. Types of immunity and immune responses. Innate immunity. Response to first infection, fast and immediate. Response on repeated infection, similar to the first time. Acquired immunity. Response to first infection, slow, limited. Response on repeated infection, increased reaction and speed upon repeated exposures. Components of immune responses. Innate immunity. Barriers, epithelium, skin and mucosa. Antimicrobial chemicals, for example mannose binding lectin. Blood proteins. Complement proteins. Cytokines. Cells. Granulocytes. Monocytes. Acquired immunity. Barriers. Antibodies and the secretions. Blood proteins. Antibodies. Cells. Lymphocytes, T and B cells. 1. Cytokines. Cytokines are small peptide proteins that can be synthesized and secreted by various immune cells and non-immune cells. Cytokine networks maintain cell-to-cell communication. Cytokine networks regulate lymphocyte turnover, differentiation and activation. They do not act specifically to the antigens that induce their secretion. Cytokines include 1. Interleukins, IELs, for example IL-1, IL-6 and IL-8. 2. Tumor necrosis factors, TNF, for example TNF-alpha, TNF-beta. 3. Interferon, IFN, for example IFN-gamma. NB-IL-1, IL-6, IL-8 and TNF-alpha, which are called pro-inflammatory cytokines. Functions. A. Regulate the activity of immune cells. B. Promote the growth and differentiation of immune cells. C. Stimulate chemotaxis. What are pro-inflammatory cytokines? Pro-inflammatory cytokines are the cytokines involved in the upregulation of inflammatory reactions. They are produced predominantly by activated macrophages. What is chemotaxis? Chemotaxis is the directed movement of immune cells from blood to tissues and within tissues. 2. Complement system. The complement system is made up of a large number of distinct plasma proteins, greater than 30 proteins, that react with and activate one another. Complement activation is a continuous process that is regulated by some factors, including C1 esterase inhibitor, also called C1 inhibitor. Complement proteins are produced by the liver and macrophages. They are found in all body fluids, except CSF and urine. The 9 main factors are given numbers, from C1 to C9. When a factor is activated, it is divided, cleaved into 2 parts A and B. So, each activated complement acts as an enzyme to cleave the next complement in the cascade. Complement system activation. The complement system cascade can be activated by one of 3 pathways. But, all the 3 pathways reach a point of activating factors that form a complex called C3 convertase. Seb plus C3 convertase complex called C5 convertase, which is the enzyme responsible for activating C5 into C5a and C5b. So, the 3 pathways are 1. Classical pathway, starts by antigen-antibody complex. 2. Lectin pathway, starts by mannose binding lectin, MBL, bound to the antigen. 3. Alternative pathway, starts by the antigen itself. What is MAC? How does it cause cell lysis? MAC, membrane attack complex, is an aggregate of activated C9 factors that aggregate beside each other in a circle form and insert themselves in the cell membrane of the target cell. The target cell now has an open channel in its membrane, allowing molecules to diffuse freely through it. The cell cannot maintain its osmotic stability and is killed by loss of electrolytes. Functions of complement system. 1. Lysis of microbial cells by MAC. 2. Opsonization, promotes phagocytosis by Seb, C4b. 3. Chemotaxis, CEA, C5a and C5b67 are chemotactic factors for phagocytes. 4. Bind to receptors on immune cells triggering inflammation, by CEA, C4a and C5, where they are called anaphylatoxins, inflammatory mediators. 5. Clears immune complex AgAb from the circulation, taking them to the liver and spleen to be phagocytosed. How can anaphylatoxins, CEA, C4a and C5, trigger inflammation? They bind to mast cells and basophils, causing their degranulation and release of histamine and other mediators. Cause smooth muscle contraction. Increase vascular permeability, causing exudates, edema and swelling. Consequently, in the absence or deficiency of complement system, the patient suffers from 1. Recurrent bacterial infections due to MAC absence. 2. Increased susceptibility to autoimmune reactions as systemic lupus erythematosus, SLE, Q/HAO. And deficiency in complement proteins causes the AgAb complexes not to be cleared and to precipitate in tissues, giving rise to autoimmune reaction. Complement activation is a continuous process that is regulated by some factors, including C1 esterase inhibitor, also called C1 inhibitor. So, the deficiency or absence of C1 inhibitors causes non-stop activation of complements and increasing inflammation by higher levels of anaphylatoxins. The genetic disease of absence of C1 inhibitor is known as hereditary angioedema. Thanks for watching. If you liked video, support us by subscribes and likes.